The moment you truly let go, something can change that your avoidant ex never expected. Not because you stopped loving them, not because you suddenly became cold, forward, and not because you decided to play some psychological game. It changes because for the first time, your ex may realize that your emotional availability is no longer guaranteed, forward. For a long time, the relationship may have followed a familiar pattern. They pulled away. You reached closer. They became distant. You tried harder. They asked for space, forward. You gave them space, but secretly hoped they would come back. Then something changes. You stop chasing. You stop checking. You stop waiting for the message, forward. You stop trying to decode every small behavior. And slowly your life stops revolving around their decision to come closer or move away, forward. That is when your absence can begin to feel very different. An avoidant ex may appear completely unaffected after a breakup. They may seem calm, busy, independent, forward. They may even act as though the relationship meant very little. But outward calm does not always tell you what is happening internally, forward. This is one of the lesser known parts of avoidant attachment. People with stronger avoidant attachment tendencies can rely on what psychologists call deactivating strategies, forward. These strategies can reduce awareness of attachment needs when emotional closeness feels threatening or overwhelming. Instead of moving toward painful feelings, forward, a person may push those feelings down. Instead of focusing on the loss, they may focus on independence. Instead of thinking about the relationship, forward, they may convince themselves that they are better off alone. From the outside, this can look like complete emotional detachment, forward. But there is an important difference between not showing emotion and not experiencing emotion. That difference can become especially important after a breakup, forward. You may experience the pain immediately. You may think about the relationship constantly. You may question every conversation. You may wonder why they changed, forward. You may want answers that they never gave you. Meanwhile, your ex may appear strangely calm. That contrast can make you believe that they never cared, forward. But attachment research suggests that people do not all process relationship loss in the same way. Some people move toward connection when they feel threatened by loss, forward. Others move away from it, forward. Avoidant coping can make emotional distress less visible. That does not mean every avoidant ex is secretly suffering. It does not mean every distant person will eventually come back, forward. And it certainly does not mean that silence is proof of hidden love. Those assumptions can keep you trapped in the same cycle. The real question is more interesting, forward. What happens when the person who was always available suddenly becomes unavailable emotionally, forward? Because there is a major difference between you being physically absent and you being psychologically detached. Your ex may already know that the relationship ended, forward. They may already know that you are no longer together, but they may not immediately understand that you have stopped waiting for them. That is a different kind of loss, forward. As long as you are chasing, explaining, checking in, or trying to repair everything, the old relationship pattern can continue even after the relationship itself has ended, forward. They pull away. You move closer. They create distance, search for a way to restore connection. You feel pressure. You feel rejected. Then you try even harder. The cycle continues, forward. But genuine letting go breaks that pattern. And genuine letting go is not about pretending not to care. It is not posting things to make your ex jealous, forward. It is not disappearing for 3 days and hoping they panic. It is not refusing to respond because you want to punish them. That is still emotional attachment. Forward. You are still organizing your behavior around their reaction. Real letting go looks very different. You stop making their attention the center of your emotional world. Forward. You accept that the relationship may be over. You stop chasing explanations that they are unwilling to give. You stop measuring your worth by whether they contact you. Forward. You begin rebuilding your own routines, priorities, friendships, goals, and identity. And most importantly, forward. You stop living as though your life is temporarily paused until your ex decides what they want. That is the point where the dynamic can change. Forward. Because your ex can no longer rely on the same emotional safety net. They may have become accustomed to knowing that you would still be there, even after conflict, even after distance. Forward. Even after silence, even after they pushed you away. That certainty can disappear when you genuinely move forward. And this is where things become complicated. Forward. Because if an avoidant ex suddenly reaches out after you let go, that does not automatically mean they have changed. They may miss you. They may miss the comfort you provided. Forward. They may feel curious about your life. They may feel the loss of access to someone who once cared deeply about them. They may fear that you are finally moving on. Forward. Or they may genuinely recognize that they made a mistake and want to rebuild the relationship. Those possibilities can look almost identical at first. A message can be a message. Forward. A sudden call can be a sudden call. A nostalgic conversation can sound incredibly emotional. But emotion alone does not tell you the reason behind it. Forward. This is where many people get pulled back into the same cycle. Their avoidant ex returns. The attention feels intense. Hope comes rushing back. Forward. The person who felt impossible to reach suddenly seems interested again. And the brain naturally connects that attention with love. Forward. But renewed attention and emotional readiness are not the same thing. Some can miss you without being ready for intimacy. Forward. Someone can fear losing you without knowing how to maintain a healthy relationship. Someone can regret the breakup without understanding the behavior that caused it. Forward. And someone can come back because your absence finally became real, only to pull away again once closeness returns. Forward. That is why the moment they realize you have let go is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a much more important question. What exactly are they responding to? Forward. Are they responding to love, loss, curiosity, fear, loneliness, a wounded sense of security, or a genuine desire to build something healthier than what existed before? Forward. By the end of this video, you will understand what can change psychologically when an avoidant ex realizes that you are no longer chasing them. Forward. You will learn why their reaction may appear delayed. You will learn why your absence can feel different from simple physical distance. Forward. You will learn how curiosity can sometimes look like love. You will learn why an ex returning does not automatically mean the relationship has become healthy. And most importantly, forward, you will learn how to recognize the difference between someone who simply does not want to lose access to you and someone who is actually prepared to show up differently. Forward. Because the goal is not to make your ex panic. Forward. The goal is not to make them chase you. The goal is not to prove that you were valuable by watching them regret losing you. Forward. The real goal is to understand what happens when you finally stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else close. Sometimes that changes how they see you. But more importantly, forward, it changes how you see yourself. And that may be the most powerful change of all. Welcome to relationship reality. Forward. If you want to understand the psychology behind avoidant relationships, emotional distance, breakups, attachment patterns, and the behaviors that often leave people confused, forward, you are in the right place. Subscribe to the channel. Because in this video, we are going deeper than the simple question of whether your avoidant ex misses you. Forward. We are going to uncover what can actually change when they realize that you have finally let go. For a long time, forward, the relationship may have operated on a pattern that neither of you fully recognized. They pulled away. You moved closer, they became quiet. You reached out, they asked for space. Forward. You tried to give it, but you still stayed emotionally available. That pattern can become surprisingly predictable. In attachment psychology, forward, people with stronger avoidant tendencies often value independence and may become uncomfortable when emotional closeness feels too intense. When pressure rises, forward, distance can feel like relief. And when the other person responds by chasing, explaining, reassuring, or trying harder, that distance can temporarily work. Forward. The avoidant person gets more space. The anxious partner gets more uncertainty. Then the cycle repeats. But something unusual happens when the person who always pursued finally stops. Forward. The pattern loses one of its most important parts. There is no longer an immediate reaction to the distance, no long message, no emotional explanation, no attempt to repair everything. Forward. No reminder that you are still waiting. And that does not magically create feelings in your ex. This is important. Silence is not a psychological spell. Forward. Walking away does not force someone to fall in love with you. Instead, your silence removes certainty. Forward. Your ex can no longer assume that distance will always be followed by your pursuit. That is a very different experience. For months or even years, forward, they may have known something without consciously thinking about it. If they pulled away, you would probably come closer. Forward. If they became cold, you would probably ask what was wrong. If they disappeared, you might eventually reach out. That creates a kind of emotional predictability. Then suddenly, forward, the prediction stops working. You are still gone, but this time you are not waiting. That can create uncertainty. Forward. And uncertainty can be powerful because the brain does not like incomplete patterns. Your ex may begin wondering why you are not responding the way you used to. Are you angry? Forward. Have you moved on? Are you seeing someone else? Do you still care? Did they finally push you too far? Forward. These questions can appear even when the person does not immediately admit that they miss you. And this is where another lesser known distinction matters. Forward. Having access to someone is not the same as choosing to reconnect with them. Someone may feel comfortable knowing that you are available. They may enjoy knowing that you still care. Forward. They may even feel reassured by the possibility that they could return someday. But none of that proves that they are ready to build a healthy relationship. Forward. This is why an avoidant ex can look completely unchanged at first. They may continue with their routine. They may stay quiet. They may appear detached. Forward. They may even seem happier than before. Forward. Research on breakup behavior has found that attachment avoidance can be associated with more indirect approaches to ending relationships and less direct emotional engagement during relationship dissolution. Forward. So do not expect a dramatic confession. The first reaction may be much quieter. It may simply be uncertainty. A strange awareness that something familiar is missing. Forward. A realization that the person who once reached toward them is no longer reaching. And once that certainty disappears, the emotional meaning of your absence can begin to change. Forward. Sometimes the most confusing part of an avoidant breakup is not the distance. It is the delay. You may feel the breakup immediately. The pain arrives fast. Forward. You think about the conversations. You replay the last moments. You search for answers. You feel the empty space where the relationship used to be. Then slowly, you begin to recover. Forward. But your ex may appear to move in the opposite direction. At first, they seem fine, calm, bussy, independent, almost untouched. Then, weeks or months later, something changes. Forward. They become curious. They remember old moments. Forward. They start thinking about you again. They may suddenly notice your absence. This can feel shocking, but there is a psychological reason this pattern can happen. Forward. People with stronger avoidant attachment tendencies can rely on what researchers describe as deactivating strategies. Forward. These strategies can push attachment-related thoughts and feelings away from conscious attention when closeness becomes uncomfortable. The important detail is this. Forward. Pushing a feeling out of awareness is not always the same as processing it. A person can become very good at saying, I am fine. They can focus on work. They can stay busy. Forward. They can emphasize independence. They can tell themselves that relationships. They can avoid conversations that bring painful emotions to the surface. Forward. From the outside, this can look like emotional strength. But emotional suppression can create a strange delay. The feeling does not necessarily disappear. Forward. It may simply become less visible. This creates two very different timelines. You may feel everything at the beginning. You hurt, you grieve, you question. Forward. You slowly accept what happened. Then you begin rebuilding your life. Your ex may seem unaffected during that same period. But later, when the distractions become quieter, forward, the emotional reality can become harder to avoid. The house feels different. The routine feels different. There is no message from you. No familiar conversation. Forward. No emotional reassurance. No person waiting for their next move. And suddenly the absence is not simply convenient. It is noticeable. Forward. Research has linked avoidant attachment with inhibited breakup distress and avoidant coping. In some cases, forward, this reduced emotional engagement can make it harder to fully process the experience and learn from it. That does not mean every avoidant person secretly suffers for months. Forward. It does not mean every distant ex will eventually return. And it certainly does not prove that delayed emotions equal hidden love. This distinction matters. Forward. Feeling the loss of someone is one thing. Being prepared to love that person differently is another. An ex can miss your presence without being ready for emotional closeness. Forward. They can regret losing you without understanding why they pushed you away. They can feel lonely without becoming more emotionally available. Forward. They can even experience a powerful wave of emotion and still repeat the same behavior once intimacy returns. That is why delayed emotion can be so misleading. Forward. You may see a sudden message and think, finally, they understand. But the message only proves that they reached out. It does not prove that they have changed. Forward. The deeper question is what happens after the first emotional wave? Because when deactivation stops protecting someone from uncomfortable feelings, forward, the feelings can become harder to ignore. And that is when your absence may begin to feel less like freedom and more like loss. Forward. Something strange can happen when an avoidant ex realizes your attention is no longer guaranteed. Curiosity can appear before commitment. They may suddenly wonder what changed. Forward. Why are you not reaching out? Why are you not checking on them? Why do you seem less affected? Did you finally move on? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all. Forward. Do you still care about them? For someone who is used to having access to your attention, your emotional absence can create uncertainty. That uncertainty can lead to renewed interest. Forward. Sometimes it starts with something small, a random message, a simple question, a reaction to something you posted, a sudden attempt to start a conversation after weeks of silence. Forward. The message may look casual, but the timing can feel anything but casual. They may also become more interested in your life. They may ask where you have been. Forward. Who you are spending time with, how things are going, whether you are seeing someone. They may suddenly remember details they once ignored. They may bring up an old memory. Forward. A place you visited together. A joke only the two of you understood. A conversation from months ago. This is where things can become emotionally dangerous. Forward. Because renewed curiosity can look almost identical to renewed romantic interest. The warmth returns. The attention returns. The nostalgia returns. Forward. And your brain naturally wants to connect those signals. You may think they finally realize your value. Maybe they do. But there is another possibility. Forward. They say simply by reacting to the loss of certainty. For a long time, they may have known that you were emotionally available. Now, they do not know. Forward. That uncertainty can make you more noticeable. And this is a lesser known part of relationship dynamics. Forward. People do not always value access and connection in the same way. Someone can miss having you available without being prepared to build a relationship with you. Forward. They can miss your messages, your support, attention, your familiar presence. They can miss the emotional safety that came with knowing someone cared deeply about them. Forward. But missing emotional security is not automatically the same as wanting genuine intimacy. And wanting intimacy is still not the same as being ready for a healthy relationship. Forward. That difference is easy to miss when emotions suddenly become intense. Forward. Research on post-breakup attachment has found that yearning for an ex and attempts to approach that person can be connected with greater breakup distress. Forward. So when someone suddenly reaches out, the contact itself does not tell you the whole story. It may be love, it may be loneliness, it may be curiosity, it may be regret. Forward. It may be fear of losing someone permanently, or it may simply be the shock of discovering that the person who once seemed permanently available has started living without them. Forward. There is another behavior that can be especially confusing. Testing an ex may send a small message just to see how you respond. They may make a light joke. Forward. They may mention a shared memory. They may offer a small compliment. Then they wait. Your response gives them information. Are you still emotionally attached? Are you still angry? Forward. Will you immediately become warm again? Are you waiting for them? This does not prove manipulation. It does not prove avoidant attachment either. Forward. Human behavior is more complicated than that. A single message cannot reveal someone's attachment style. A sudden burst of attention cannot reveal their true motive. Forward. Only consistent behavior over time can tell you much more, because the real difference appears after curiosity fades. Forward. Someone who only misses your presence may disappear again once they feel reassured that you still care. Forward. Someone who misses emotional security may seek comfort without offering commitment. But someone who genuinely wants to rebuild must eventually move beyond curiosity. Forward. They must become willing to communicate, to take responsibility, to tolerate closeness, to show consistency. Forward. And that is where the first signs of renewed attention begin to face a much harder test. Forward. The moment they realize you are truly moving on can be very different from the moment you simply stop contacting them, because silence can be temporary. Distance can be an act. Forward. But consistent change is harder to misunderstand. There is a major difference between pretending not to care and actually becoming emotionally free. Forward. If you stop messaging for a few days while secretly checking your phone every 5 minutes, the emotional pattern has not changed. If you post things hoping your ex will notice, forward, you are still organizing your behavior around them. If you disappear only because you want them to chase you, they may eventually sense that too. Forward. But something changes when you genuinely rebuild your life. You stop monitoring their reactions. You stop looking for hidden meanings. Forward. You stop wondering whether every small action is a sign that they will return. Your emotional energy moves somewhere else. And that can be difficult for an ex to ignore. Forward. For a long time, they may have understood the relationship through a simple pattern. They created distance. You responded. They became unavailable. You tried to restore connection. Forward. They asked for space. You eventually came back. That pattern gave them a sense of control over distance. Then the pattern stops. They create distance, and you do not chase. Forward. They remain silent, and you continue living. They expect you to reach out, but the message never comes. At first, they may not think much about it. Then something subtle happens. Forward. They begin to notice that your absence is becoming permanent. This is very different from knowing that you are physically gone. Forward. They begin to understand that you may no longer be emotionally waiting, and that can create conflicting reactions. Part of them may feel drawn toward you. Forward. Another part may still fear the closeness they once avoided. This tension is important when discussing avoidant attachment. Forward. Avoidant attachment is not simply a lack of desire for relationships. It can involve a complicated relationship with intimacy itself. Forward. A person may want connection while also feeling uncomfortable with dependence, vulnerability, or emotional demands. So the moment loss becomes real, forward, attraction toward reconnection can increase. But once closeness returns, the old discomfort can return too. This creates the possibility of an approach avoidance cycle. Forward. They move closer because they feel the loss. Forward. Then they become uncomfortable because the connection is becoming real again. They pull away. The distance creates another sense of loss. They move closer again. And suddenly, forward, both people are back inside the same emotional loop. This is why your genuine detachment matters. Not because it guarantees that your ex will chase you. It does not. Forward. And not because it is some secret trick for triggering attraction. It is powerful because it changes the relationship pattern itself. Forward. Your attention is no longer something they can assume will return whenever they create distance. Your emotional availability is no longer automatic. Forward. And your life is no longer organized around their behavior. That can force a different kind of realization. They may begin to understand that there are now two separate possibilities. Forward. You are not pretending to move on. You may actually be moving on. And that realization can create a question they cannot answer through the old pattern. If they come back, forward, will you still be there? If they reach for you, will you still reach back? And if the answer is no, the meaning of the breakup suddenly becomes much more real. Forward. The most dangerous moment may not be when your avoidant ex ignored you. It may be when they suddenly come back. Because after everything you went through, one message can feel enormous. Forward. A simple I miss you can bring back months of memories. A late night call can make you believe they finally understand. Forward. A sudden burst of affection can make the past feel strangely close again. But there is a difference between someone coming back and someone becoming capable of a healthier relationship. Forward. That difference can protect you from repeating the same cycle. Fear of losing someone can create powerful behavior. When your ex realizes that you are truly moving on, forward, they may suddenly become more attentive. They may message more often. They may become warmer. They may talk about the good times, forward. They may tell you that they have been thinking about you. The emotional intensity can be real. But intense emotion is not the same as lasting change. Forward. A sudden message is not sustained communication. Nostalgia is not accountability. Missing you is not the same as understanding why the relationship failed. Jealousy is not commitment. Forward. And emotional intensity is not emotional availability. Forward. These differences are easy to miss because the first return can feel so powerful. Your brain remembers the connection. Your emotions remember the good moments. Forward. Hope can return faster than trust. And suddenly, the person who once seemed distant is giving you exactly the attention you wanted. But then comes the real test. Forward. What happens after the excitement fades? Because temporary fear of loss can push someone toward you. It does not automatically teach them how to stay close. Forward. If the old pattern has not changed, the same problems can return. They move closer. You become hopeful. The relationship feels alive again. Then emotional closeness increases. Forward.
They become uncomfortable. Their communication slows. They need distance. You become confused. You reach for reassurance. They pull back further.
And the cycle begins again. Forward. This is one reason intermittent contact can be so emotionally powerful. Forward. Periods of intense attention followed by distance can create uncertainty and keep a person highly focused on the relationship. You begin waiting for the next message. Forward. You remember the last warm conversation. You wonder when the next withdrawal will happen. The relationship becomes a series of emotional peaks and drops. Forward. Attachment insecurity can also shape how people cope with breakup, distress, and adjustment. The aftermath of a breakup is rarely explained by one simple behavior. Forward. Such as whether an ex reaches out. So if they return, look beyond the return itself. Look at consistency. Do they communicate regularly? Forward. Do they disappear when emotions become uncomfortable? Look at accountability. Can they openly acknowledge how their behavior affected you? Forward. Can they discuss the problems without blaming everything on circumstances? Look at direct communication. Can they say what they want clearly? Forward. Or do they send confusing signals and expect you to interpret them? Look at emotional availability. Can they tolerate vulnerability? Forward. Now, can they stay present during difficult conversations? Can they handle closeness without immediately creating distance? And perhaps most importantly, forward, look for a willingness to change unhealthy patterns, not promises, but pause, because someone can say, I have changed. But real change becomes visible through repeated behavior. Forward. The goal is not to make your avoidant ex chase you. The goal is not to prove that you were valuable by making them regret losing you. Forward. The goal is to ask a much harder question. If this person returns, can the relationship actually become healthier? Because the answer will not be found in one emotional message. Forward. It will be found in what happens after the message, in what happens when the excitement disappears, and what happens when vulnerability returns forward, and what happens when the relationship becomes real again. And that is where the difference between returning and truly changing becomes impossible to ignore forward. The biggest change that happens when you truly let go may not happen inside your avoidant ex. It happens inside you. You stop measuring your healing by their reaction forward. You stop asking whether they noticed your silence. You stop waiting for the message that proves they finally understand. Maybe they become curious. Maybe delayed emotions appear forward. Maybe they reach out. Maybe they never do. Any of those outcomes is possible, but none of them determines your worth, and none of them proves that the relationship should be restored forward. An ex coming back does not automatically mean they have changed. An ex staying away does not mean you were not important. Their reaction belongs to them. Your healing belongs to you forward. Real letting go is not about making someone afraid of losing you. It is not about becoming distant so they will chase you. It is not about winning the breakup forward. It is about reaching a point where your peace no longer depends on whether another person chooses you. That is the part people often miss forward. You may start this journey hoping your ex will finally realize what they lost. But eventually, something deeper can happen. You realize that you do not need that realization anymore forward. You do not need them to regret leaving. You do not need them to send the perfect message. You do not need them to come back with an explanation that finally makes everything make sense forward. You can care about someone and still choose yourself. You can miss someone and still move forward. You can remember the good parts without returning to the parts that hurt you forward. And sometimes the strongest form of closure is not hearing them say, I made a mistake. It is waking up one day and realizing that you no longer need to hear it forward. So if your avoidant ex eventually notices your absence, let that be their experience. If they return, look at their actions. If they stay away, keep living forward. Because your life does not have to remain suspended while someone else decides how much closeness they can handle forward. The real turning point is not when your avoidant ex finally realizes they lost you. It is when you realize you no longer need them to realize it forward. If this video gave you a clearer understanding of avoidant relationships and the psychology behind letting go forward, give it a like and subscribe to Relationship Reality for more videos that help you understand these patterns without losing yourself in them.